How you doing, Greg?
Hey, I'm doing great.
Excellent. And I think this will be a very fitting time to record this episode because you just got in from the garden not long ago. Is that right?
That's right. It's supposed to be a rainy day today, so I canceled all my business activities. And since it wasn't raining yet, I've been out working in my garden all day today.
Cool. Awesome. So yeah, what we've made this episode, which is episode 36, is basically an early May garden update from Greg. So take it away.
Yeah, so I thought I'd do a little episode today just telling people what I have planted thus far and what's up and what's growing and just what's going on in my garden so that people that are thinking of planting or have planted or they're wondering, well, why isn't this happening or why isn't that happening or what should I be doing or whatever, any sort of gardeners love comparing notes. Is this up? What's up? What's growing? How big are yours? Are you having problems with this or that? So I thought it would be helpful for anyone in that situation. And with the disclaimer that what's happening here in my yard, in my microclimate, may not be the same as where you are. You may be behind or ahead of me. We did an episode on zones, but they're very uninformative. They're really good, as we said in the episode. They're good in telling you what's the likelihood that a certain plant can survive your winter.
Right.
But it'll say like zone planting schedule, growing zone planting schedule, and it's very it's hit or miss. Like, I'm supposed to be in zone 6.
Right.
But I watch a guy on YouTube, and we're going to be doing an interview with him, hopefully. I won't say the guy's name because this is all up in the air right now, but we're doing an interview. But this guy's in zone 5, which should be colder than here. But this guy's garden's way further along than mine right now. It's fantastic.
Right.
Because where he lives, even though the winter is colder, the spring comes sooner and the summer is hotter.
Right.
You really have to, wherever you live, it's good to use these schedules as an indication of when maybe to start, but other indications are perhaps more accurate. That is to say, as we've said in other episodes, just having a look around during the spring at what wild things are happening, what birds are around, what's coming up, what's going on, and also looking at your perennials. Are they up? Are the dandelions up? Are the maple trees budding? What's going on? Because all of those are signs of life. Are your garlic? Are your garlic up? Is your rhubarb come up? Blah 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 blah. So I have found over the years that those things tend to be better indications of what's happening. Also, just the general temperature of the soil. I'll give an example. I decided to plant my potatoes today, and often I I usually plant them around the middle of May. But this is when I had time to do it. It was supposed to be raining for like 40 days and 40 nights.
Yeah, it was, really.
The forecast keeps saying that, but then we keep having these days where it doesn't really rain that much at all. So it's a little confusing. Anyway, I decided to put my potatoes in today, but I decided to let my hands have the final word on that. And that is to say, I'm working in the garden. I've got very thin gloves. There's different kinds of gloves you can use for gardening, but this time of year, I use very thin ones because you have really good dexterity. So it's almost like having your bare hands. Right. And they don't have any insulative value. They're just cheap, like $2 or $3 dollar store gloves. But it's just thin latex, really. And so if the ground's cold, you can feel it. So, for me, if you're digging in the ground 6 or 8 inches deep and your hands are going numb, it's probably too cold for potatoes. Yeah. Because potatoes are alive.
Yeah.
Right? When you buy seed potatoes, or if you store your own seed potatoes, they're alive. And if they get too cold, they die.
Yeah.
So you don't want to go too early. So we'll see. I planted all my potatoes today. So it's all or nothing.
Right. Yeah.
But hopefully I'll try to resist the urge to dig them up a little bit and see what's happening. I always do that and end up breaking off the eyes and stuff. It's hard to resist the curiosity to see what's going on. And I plant mine differently than other people. Traditionally, you're supposed to, you put them in rows and you hill them up and all that sort of stuff. I don't do that. I dig down. I don't have any hills or rows like that in my garden at all. Everything's flat. Mm-hmm. But I have a layer of mulch over everything. So when I plant a potato, I just dig down to about my wrist and stick the potato in the hole and then fill it back in and put the mulch back on top. So that's how I do it. And it seems to work just fine. That way you don't have to hill them or anything like that. They're not gonna They're not going to pop out of the soil and turn green or anything like that because they're deep enough, and the mulch will rise up a little bit. When your potatoes start forming, the mulch will rise up instead of being. If you just have bare earth, it tends to get pushed out of the way by the potatoes as they develop. Mm-hmm. Then your potatoes are exposed to the sun. They turn green. They don't taste good, and they get. I guess technically they're poisonous in some way. Not poisonous like I don't think it's kill you poisonous. Just poisonous in the sense that doesn't taste good and probably doesn't agree with you. Anyway, so yeah, I was putting my potatoes in today, and man, if I can do it here, probably anywhere in the Maritimes, it's probably doable because where I am, it tends to be a lot colder. When we were at that trade show,
the Youth Expo, yeah.
I can never remember the name of that. The Youth Expo. I was talking to a guy from Taproots, I believe, and they planted their potatoes then. Like they had just planted like a field of potatoes.
Wow.
I think the variety was called Superior, which I plant some of those as well. It's a nice white potato, tastes very good. I would never think of doing that in April here. Mm-hmm. But he's in the valley, and he's a whole hour away from me.
Yeah.
But his soil is different too. So my soil is very. It's got a lot of organic matter in it. It's got a lot of stuff like that. So it tends to be very wet. Mm-hmm. Whereas his soil, according to him, I believe he was saying it's very sandy. So sandy soil wouldn't be quite as wet. So a lot of things if you plant them too early, it's not just the cold. It's a combination of too cold and too wet.
Right.
Without enough heat. Mm-hmm. I mean, warm and wet's great. But cold and wet, a lot of things don't like that. Mm. So, it really depends. But anyway, I'm putting my potatoes in, so I'll know in about 3 weeks if that was a huge mistake.
Yeah, I guess you will, won't you?
Because if I've done it right, I should have about 100 pounds of potatoes. But
awesome.
Otherwise, and I planted a number of varieties, but the Red Norland, Yukon Gold, Superior, Kennebecs. There's lots of other varieties you can plant. Those are just the ones I tend to. That's ones I had this year. That's the other thing. So we're going to have a video coming out probably this week before the episode. So hopefully you'll already seen it. But I had an idea last fall of a way to store seed potatoes. So if you plant your own potatoes and you get seeds in the if you harvest your potatoes in the fall, you've got all these potatoes and you want to eat them, but you can take some of them and put them aside and stick them back in the ground in the following spring, and those will become potato plants. Mm-hmm. So you can buy seed potatoes as well, but it's even cheaper just to save your own. But doing this year after year, I've found that when I store them in my garage, which gets all winter, it might get down to as cold as 4 degrees Celsius. It never goes below freezing in my garage. Right. But I find when I take them out of storage, and I've tried many different ways to store them. I stored them in wood chips. I've stored them in sand. I've stored them in newspaper. Regardless, they have these 6-inch, 8-inch, 10-inch, sometimes even a foot-long eyes coming out of them. Mm. And you can still plant them like that, but I don't find that they, when they've got those really long eyes, I don't find them very productive. You get potatoes, but you get probably half what you should have got. Mm. Seems to be better if you put them in the ground with the short little stubby eyes. Right. When you buy seed potatoes at a garden center, that's the way they tend to be. And with one of those, you might get like anywhere from 6 to 8 potatoes per plant, which is or maybe even 10. If you get 10 potatoes per plant, that's pretty good. Mm. So that's a 10-to-1 return on your investment.
Sounds pretty good.
That's a good return, right? I'm frustrated with the relatively poor lack of success I've had with storing them. But I still, the principle of it is totally worthwhile. The idea of just replanting stuff I planted, not having to pay for it, and getting free food just as a result of a bit of labor and some forethought, that's attractive to me. Mm-hmm. So I decided to try a different approach this time. And what I did was I've got these people that watch some of my videos, they might have seen I've got these places that I do my composting. These, I guess I made them out of rotten logs, but they're about 1 cubic yard composting stations, and I just fill them full of leaves and seaweed and horse manure and whatever I can get my hands on, and let it sit like that for a year or two. And then after a couple of years, you dig it up and you've got some pretty good soil in there. So I decided, you know what, I bet you 2 feet below the surface, so they're about 3 feet high, and they're about 3 by 3 by 3, right? So they're about a meter squared. So 1 square meter is the area roughly, or one cubic yard, right? 1 square yard. Yeah. So I thought, hey, if I dig one of these up and I put a styrofoam cooler, just because I got the whole idea because someone had thrown a styrofoam cooler away on the side of the road, and I just grabbed it. Got the idea right there while I was driving home. Yeah. If I put all my potatoes in one of these coolers, which will sort of regulate the temperature somewhat and regulate the moisture somewhat, and so on and so forth. So anyway, I put all my potatoes in one of these coolers and put some newspaper in between the tiers so that there be some degree of control of moisture levels, just like a humidor effect sort of thing. Mm-hmm. And I stuck it, I emptied the compost station, I put that cooler at the bottom, and then I covered it with all that stuff, all that different kinds of debris. And so today I dug that up, and number one, the cooler had been smashed. I don't know if my kids were jumping. I don't know if because the compost things are full of leaves. My daughter loves to jump on leaves anywhere they are, so I don't know if they jumped on it, or I don't know what happened. But anyway, the cooler was smashed pretty badly, so it was completely compromised. Mm-hmm. Luckily, no moles got in there and made a feast of it. Yeah. But anyway, so it was it was more moist. The moisture levels were a bit too high, and there was a bit of mildew in there. But from everything I can tell, the potatoes were still viable, and they had tiny little eyes. So that's sort of a root cellar hack, I think is going to be the title of the video. I like it. Because that's so much easier than, a root cellar traditionally would be find the side of a hill and make a mine into the side of it. Yeah. And then store your stuff in there. So it's a lot easier than that way. You're making use of your compost facility to store things. Conceivably, you could store a lot of things that way. Yeah. And then the potatoes are ready to go because they've been underground all that time. You're just moving them from one place underground to another place. So I don't know. In 3 weeks, 3 or 4 weeks, I'll know if it worked or if it was a huge fail, epic fail. Either epic success or epic fail.
And if it was an epic fail, we just won't talk about it.
Well, it's too late now. Anyway, so in terms of what's going on in the garden, of course, I just put potatoes in today. This is around May 9th. But I've got, in terms of what's up, I've got all my greens are either up or planted and should be up soon. So I've got Swiss chard up. I've got spinach up. I've got dill and parsley up. I include those. I plant those at the same time as my greens, even though they're not really greens. You wouldn't eat a bowl of parsley. That would be, well, I guess you could. There's a tabbouleh salad, Lebanese thing. It's pretty good stuff. Anyway, they're all up. My carrots and parsnips, as far as I can tell, aren't up, and I planted them a month ago, so I don't know what's going on there. But experience has taught me just to stay cool and just wait. Stay calm. Just take it easy, just don't dig the whole thing up and redo it. They'll come along. If they don't, they should be up by, my God, if they're up, I'm up by the end of May. I got to replant, but hopefully they'll come up. My beets are all up. Now the beets, when I planted them, I put plastic over them. The episode I did where, the video I did where I was showing these solar heat magnets, I put plastic over the beets, and so they've been up for a while. And I also did a garden where I put one of those hoop houses over, and I planted Scotch curly kale, chicory, and Brussels sprouts. And that was like a month ago. And they're all up and they're all growing. So that's all growing. I also planted onions about a month ago. They're up. This is my first year trying this. I planted onions from seed. They require a long amount of time. I also bought some onion sets. Those are the ones that look like tiny little onions. You buy them in a bag at a garden center. But I'm going to put those in other places. But I tried to grow some from seed because it's just it's a lot cheaper to do it that way. You can get 100 onions as seeds for $1.99, but for like $4.99 you get like 20 onion sets. But that's all. But those ones will be along a lot sooner and all that sort of stuff. What else? I also this year, this is my first year trying this. I planted Windsor beans. So a fava, there's different kinds of fava beans, but one variety of fava beans called a Windsor bean, and most beans you would never plant them this time of year unless it was in your place that was warm. But around here, you don't plant beans until all risk of frost is done because the seeds can't take being wet and cold. They don't like it. They're just like you or me. We don't like being wet or cold. But fava beans are a different kind of bean. They're more pea-like in that sense. So like my peas, which I planted a month ago, they're all about 2 inches high now, and they're growing. They're at that stage now where anytime I get any sort of heat, they grow an inch a day at least. But the Windsor beans I planted last week, so that's my first year trying them, but we'll see. That's a bean that you don't eat it you don't eat the whole pod. You just eat the seed inside the pod. But they're a very tasty sort of bean. I got another variety of fava bean as well, an Italian variety, but I'm not going to mess around with those. I'll plant those in about 2 or 3 weeks. So we got here: carrots, parsnips, pails, potatoes. The peas are up, and also in my cold frames, I have planted my tomatoes, eggplants, and peppers. So around middle of March or end of March, I planted kale and spinach and lettuce in my cold frames. And those all came up, and I moved them all out into other parts of the garden about a week or two ago. The kale's doing fine. A couple of the kale have been attacked by different things, but generally speaking, the kale's doing quite good, and it's growing now. And the lettuce, which is like a romaine type, is called Paris Cos, that variety. It ends up looking like romaine lettuce from the grocery store, only it tastes way better. That's doing fine. But the spinach, even though my theory was that if you grew them like that and not in little cups, spinach does not transplant well in my experience. I've never, grown them in those little transplant cups and had them transplant well. But I thought if I grew them in the ground, because in my cold frames everything's in the ground, I thought if I could get enough of the soil surrounding the spinach with it, maybe it wouldn't mind being moved. But within about a week, half of them were killed. Now, it might have just been the garden bed I put them in, but as far as I can tell, some sort of leaf miner or leaf borer or God knows what, like I would come out in the morning, every day I would come out in the morning and 2 or 3 of them would just have, there was pieces of leaves all over the place.
Oh, yeah.
Like, oh, no. So have a tiny bit of that, what's it called, rhodonone, which is a dust, poisonous dust that animals, no insect likes. So I hit them with that. But of course, with that, you got to be diligent because anytime it rains, it only, that stuff, I think it's got like, it breaks down within 24 hours or 48 hours. Even without rain, it breaks down. I think without rain, it breaks down. Just sunlight breaks it down to nothing in about 48 hours. So, and that's why they use it in organic gardens and stuff like that. But I mean, if it's on the plant and the pest eats it, the pest dies. Yeah. But yeah, you got to keep going out and reapplying it and that sort of stuff. Yeah. So I hit the ones that were still alive with that, and it seems to have helped them, but they're still not that good. By contrast, around I don't know, 3 weeks ago, I straight seeded spinach in some of my gardens, and all I did with those, and this is a trick that I do, is I have little pieces of strips of plastic that are about a foot wide and about 3 or 4 feet long. Mm-hmm. Between and on the long side, I've got pieces of wood. Everything where my garden is, and anyone who's watched my videos, it's windy. There's always wind, and everything you put there has to be weighted down in some way, or it just blows away. Mm-hmm. So I've got plastic, but I've got this sort of thing that holds it in place. So one row of the spinach I had underneath one of those little hoop houses that came up fine. The other row of spinach I had just under a little piece of plastic. Anyway, they came up fine. Now, so they came up 2 weeks after the cold frame spinach, but they've almost caught up to the cold frame spinach in size already. And I anticipate in 2 weeks they'll have overtaken them. Spinach doesn't like to be moved. So no. I wouldn't buy it as a transplant. If you're buying transplants, straight seed it. And I wouldn't even, this is just me speaking here. I mean, maybe I'm sure there's people out there that are more skilled than me, or they've got more finesse with these sorts of things. But I wouldn't bother messing around with spinach. Grow it. Put the seed in where you want it to grow. Mm-hmm. Don't waste your time. Yeah. This is like my third time messing around with spinach, and it never. The results are so variable, as opposed to just if you plant it where you want it to grow, it works out great. It's a cold weather vegetable anyway. So if you can do something to give it a bit of a jump start, like where I did, putting a hoop house over it or putting some plastic over it, that's fine, because it gets it germinated and all that sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. But then once you see it up, you can take all that protection off. It doesn't mind being, it doesn't mind frost, doesn't mind anything like that. Mm-hmm. Cool. Yeah. So just, for the sake of people that think, you can't do this or you can't do that, or it's too early, or you can't plant till May, the Victoria Day weekend, May, in Canada, that's, we celebrate the Queen's birthday because we're subjects of the Queen. Yeah, we are peasants. So we get one day off as a result of being peasants. Yeah. So people tend to view that date, which is around the last second. It's either around the last weekend of May. As if you talk to people, if you're just talking to people about your gardens, I got this. I thought you couldn't plant till Victoria Day weekend, which I think is Memorial Day weekend in the United States. It's around the same time, the end of May. They don't celebrate the Queen, of course. Yeah. That whole war and everything. Yeah. That whole war thing about the Queen, they solved that. Or I guess it would have been a king at that time. But yeah, there's plenty. All your greens, or almost all of your greens, certain ones I found, so I've got 3 kinds of kale. I got Scotch curly kale, I've got red Russian kale, and I've got lacinato kale. And the order of those kales, I have found anyway, the Scotch curly kale, that seems to be the most tolerant of cold. So you can plant that practically as soon as the soil can be worked. But the red Russian kale likes a bit more heat. And I didn't even mess around with straight seeding my red Russian kale this year. I planted it in the cold frames, and it came up great. The cold frame kale was the strongest, most impressive cold frame plant I had. And they're about 3 inches high right now. And they're growing, even despite the fact that it's been quite cool here. They're growing every day. So that worked out great, and I will do that next year. And of the 3 kales, I would say that the lacinato kale is the most tender of. They're all kale. You think they all be the same, but they're not. I find that you can't plant that too early. You have to. I would plant your lacinato kale right around now, which is what I did. And even then, if you plant it right now, I would put some sort of something over it to magnify the heat. Put some black landscaping fabric over it to draw the heat in, or put some plastic over it. But as I said in the previous episode, if you're going to put plastic over stuff to magnify the heat, you got to check it every day, because as soon as the seedlings start to come out of the ground, you got to get that plastic. If you're just putting plastic right on the ground, it's different if you've got a dome or something like that. It's just plastic right on the ground. It'll kill them. You got to get it off. You got to check every morning, and if you see them coming through, get that plastic off. So I just planted my lacinato kale, and I put that under plastic. So we'll see. Probably in about 7 days, it should be doing something.
Cool.
So the other thing is that all my rhubarb is up now. So I've got a friend in I got a friend who lives an hour away in a part of the province that's just a little bit warmer because it's more protected from the ocean and breezes and stuff. Her rhubarb was up a month ago now, and I've got in different parts of my garden different results. I've got a rhubarb right next to the doorway that goes into my garden, and that's the leaves are about 5 inches wide. Yeah. And I've got another part of my garden which gets better sun, and it's got better soil. Yeah. And it's got everything you could possibly want if you were a rhubarb, and just barely poking through the ground. So I don't get that. Like I planted one plant, I just jammed it in the ground. Yeah. It's like coming up great. And I jammed it just in like if anyone's seen footage of my garden, in the walkways between the beds is just wood chips over the clay that was there. And so I just jammed the rhubarb plant in that, and that's the biggest one. The one I've got in the garden bed with the sheep manure and chicken manure and all this other stuff, is seaweed and blah, blah, blah. Those are just coming into the ground. Oh, one more point I wanted to make. Anyone that watched that video where I put all the seaweed last year, I think I did a video in July, I did a video in January. All the beds that have seaweed on them, if there's any sort of sun out, that seaweed gets hot like you wouldn't believe. Oh, yeah? It's fascinating. So I've got garden beds that have wood chips on them, right? And if it's a nice sunny day, then the soil's warm. But if I jam my hand in the garden beds where I've got 3 inches of seaweed, it's feels like someone's body, like it's body heat in there, like 30 degrees or something. Something really fascinating happens with that stuff. It must have a lot of. They say it's an activator for compost heaps. Yeah. It certainly seems to be that case. If any sort of heat gets on that, it starts working. So today I planted a whole bunch of potatoes underneath the beds with the seaweed. So we'll see how that works.
Cool. Awesome update. So there you go. That's Greg's update, early May 2017. Yeah,
I just thought it would be helpful for anyone trying to think what should I do, what shouldn't I do, and hopefully everything works out. I've got evidence of some pests. I've seen a little bit of very little, but a little bit of slug activity and a little bit of leaf borer activity. It's these weird bugs that go inside your leaves. The little tiny flies lay little tiny eggs, and these little tiny caterpillar things eat your leaves. So previous years I've been lackadaisical about that. I'll just let nature sort it out. And this year I'm just not messing around. Yeah. Well, because I've had it so bad. I think honestly my garden is just still not achieved the balance that a permaculture is supposed to have, where the good pests balance out the bad pests. Right. I think I an overabundance of bad pests, so I'm balancing the equation with killing everything.
Good one.
I'll forgive myself for that. It's just next year maybe I'll have that garden. And I've had when I was in Wolfville, I didn't have to use anything. My garden, literally, I was there for 6 years and I never used anything on my garden, and everything. The odd thing would get a slug attack, or the odd cabbage lopper, or I had the odd pest, but the net result was never. I never even worried about pests. Yeah. Just had the right. I was also in a suburb there, so it's different when your garden backs onto a forest. I just think it's a different ecosystem. A little more wild, a little more of a Wild West out here in the jungle, the Terrence Bay jungle.
That's right. Yeah.